We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. And as I say, I've been here some time. The kind of golden thread that links what I've done here, and I've done a whole range of different things, is entrepreneurship, and trying to make the school the best place in the world for those interested in studying entrepreneurship, teaching it, researching it, and making it happen. One can't but open the paper at the moment without reading about the debate between growth and austerity. And entrepreneurs are held in some way or another to hold the key to unlocking growth by virtue of their effect on job creation, starting entrepreneurial businesses, and really very, to a large extent, something that is open to everyone and thereby cuts across social boundaries. At the beginning of term, we said to students, how many of you want to pursue the entrepreneurial route? And about 30 to 40% said yes, which is a significant change to even 4 or 5 years ago. Against that background, let me just tell you about the GEM project, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor project, where we ask 3 fundamental questions. How much entrepreneurial activity is taking place in different countries around the world? Why are some countries more or less entrepreneurial than others? And very importantly, so what? What can governments and policymakers and others do to encourage or boost productive entrepreneurship? In 2010, we had 59 countries participating. In 2013, it'd be 67 to 69 countries involved. And we measure 3 things. How much activity is taking place? What attitudes do people have in the adult population towards things like failure, which I'm going to share with you in a second? And what are the aspirations they have in terms of their businesses? And let me just share with you 2 or 3 findings. The first is no surprise. There's enormous variation in how much activity is taking place. And here we have a proportion of the adult population engaged in starting or running a small business. So in Japan, Germany, Italy, it's 5% or less, as compared with Ghana, Bolivia, and Peru, where it's about 1 in 3 people are engaged in starting an entrepreneurial business. And the USA, Australia, South Africa, and UK is about 5 to 10%, and that's been very stable over a long time. The second thing is, if I say the word entrepreneurship to you, you probably think about opportunity. And back in about 2004 or 5, someone said, actually, you in the West think about opportunity and entrepreneurship, and in fact the first title for the project made reference to opportunity. But he said you need to distinguish between those people who pursue the entrepreneurial route out of a sense of opportunity and those who are pushed into it out of economic necessity. In other words, they would rather have a job, but in the absence of a job, they're taking the entrepreneurial route. And that was a very important distinction between opportunity and necessity, and we measure that. And those who are pursuing the entrepreneurial route out of a sense of necessity, unsurprisingly, is very low in European countries and very high in countries such as Uganda and Egypt. So that then raises the question, what kinds of entrepreneurship and what is the kind of fundamental push or pull? What is the fundamental motivation? The third thing I just want to mention is that if you ask people, do you think there are going to be good opportunities in the next 6 months for starting a business in the area where you live, we find terrific variation. So in Japan and Korea, it's 10% or less, whereas in other countries, it's over half. And this is the perception of opportunity rather than the reality of opportunity. And with apologies to an old friend of mine, Yoshi, who's here, it's very hard, for example, to believe that in Japan, there's somehow an impoverishment of opportunity. And so what's going on in terms of the perception of opportunity, I think is very, very important rather than the reality of opportunity itself. We're now going to talk about what we're doing here in terms of the Deloitte Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and Jeff is going to take us through that and also put that in context of what has happened in the last few years.
Delighted to. So first then, entrepreneurship. I mean, you all did an entrepreneurship elective of one kind when you were here, I assume? I mean, I did one when I was here, but there was only one to take, which was New Venture Development with Rob Johnson, which is fantastic. But things have developed a lot more since then. But the first one was 26 years ago. And it's always been hugely popular with school. It led to something called the Foundation for Entrepreneurial Management, which really stimulated teaching at the school. and funding of new cases and new courses at the school. And I say we've had now the foundation, which funded 200 cases. Here are some of the cases that it's helped to produce. I've pulled some logos off, some that you recognise. We can bring, and so often do, bring the entrepreneurs behind these ventures back into class, and therefore you're sitting where you are, and the actual entrepreneur is here talking to the students. So it brings the whole thing alive.